Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. Today, we're talking about 3 tips to bring you peace. This is a week in the country and the world when many people feel a lack of peace. I've had clients already talking to me about this week, as well as friends just saying, I feel unsettled. I hate this result of the election or that result. And I just want to let you know that even as I pre record this episode for this week, I also want you to know that there are ways you can feel more peace, whatever the result. And some of those will come with a faith life potentially, but I've certainly known many people with faith shared of Christianity with me that still have anxiety or panic attacks. And it does not mean you're less of a person of faith to have those. In fact, when I know somebody is anxious, I know they highly value their life and the lives of those around them. They care so deeply. They're awake to the pain of the world and they want to find solutions. So that is my first reminder to you if you're struggling with anxiety is there is something noble in that, and that is a true and deep care for the value of life. But I also want you to know that sometimes in that worry and deep care, you're missing out on actually living. You're missing out on actually achieving purpose and allowing yourself to rest in whatever God has for you. And remembering Jesus's words of rendering to Caesar's what's Caesar's. And for you, the first tip I have for you out of 3 quick tips is asking yourself what is on your plate to do today and to do well. And this is going to involve a day of balance for sure. It's not going to just be like, okay, haha, 10 tasks. It's maybe going to have 10 tasks if you're a high efficiency person, but it might have a few important tasks that I recommend doing, if at all possible, in the order of most importance and writing a prioritized list out for those and just noticing how you can insert some healthy balance within your day. So you may say, I'm generally speaking going to get these tasks done, but I also know that I'm going to take a walk sometime, or I'm going to make sure that I make a slow food dinner night out of the busy day because I can't rest in the day, or I'm going to make sure to take a little cat nap. Something that's for you that feels a little bit luxurious or replenishing is great within your day. And especially inserting even music into that because we know music ignites all areas of our brain. And it's just such a lift if you need to find a way through some of the panic or a lack of peace that you're experiencing with limbo elections, or maybe a candidate that you weren't hoping to see locally, or in a big debate. We have our big country debating right now about who should be the president. So it's important that you know that whether you're the person whose candidate won and you're now anxious about the other one, or maybe your candidate didn't win or your cause didn't win, that you first allow yourself to say, I'm going to distract with my to-do list, including some balance as well as some music. And that's a great first tip. Now, the second tip involves looking at your fear a little more directly. It involves saying, what is specifically bringing me this lack of peace? And it's probably got something to do with a felt sense of a lack of control. And so asking yourself what you do have control of in the way of protecting yourself, your family, is a great tip here. It's asking, instead of, how am I a victim? What agency do I have? Maybe you really care about a certain children's cause and you donate to that. I know we have the Bridge of Life foster care and adoption run coming up, and we just decided to become a sponsor. Maybe you have something where you're like, oh my gosh, I care so much about women's rights, and you go ahead and you speak to that. I know Melody Jane is so into her feminism. I love to see when you guys are bringing your faith into action about populations that are sometimes underserved, in particular ways that mean the most to you and your values. I know you're trying so hard to do what's right and good. And so we're all going to feel a little differently about how that could look culturally. But you just stay in your lane and allow yourself to process through what you can do to help this world. That is such a beautiful way to combat fears. Is first, like I said, get active in your ordered day with balance, but then next to actually bring forth good things into the world by way of you looking at how you can help others. That is such a great way to stop thinking about me and how I'm hurting and start to think about others and how they're actually going to be helped by me. Now, the third and final thing I just want to remind you of, this is a week when it could be absolutely so tempting to be on social media nonstop. You could just, like I did over the hurricane, following Dennis Phillips, whom I got to know so well, the meteorologist, and Noah Berggren, I think is his last name, but I just read it a lot. And just, you just get sucked in right to the vortex of, I've got to get the scores. I've got to check on things. Has anything shifted with this? Was I wrong? Did this election result shift at all? These are things that every now and again in your day are helpful to look at, but you do not have control over these. And so it's so important that you allow yourself instead to take social media breaks. I've been so fascinated lately by the work of the Anxious Generation author, Jonathan Haidt. And I have been so sad to see how many kids, teens, and adults are negatively affected by the amount of time spent on social media. And this is a great time to do a cleanse. I just did one with my kids, really looked again at how much time was being spent, and I challenged them in different ways. And I hope you'll do the same with yourself. I also challenge myself regularly with this kind of a thing. So I'm up usually in the morning having my prayer time and trying to find out where I'm wasting time and being intentional about that. And I happen to notice I was like 8 minutes on my social media on Instagram, 45 minutes a day on my Instagram for Enneagram and Marriage. And I thought, you know what? I can get that second one down. But I also was challenging myself instead of just posting to be present with my people. So there may be things that you can do too. Instead of looking at polls, for instance, you might do what I'm doing and saying, how can I check in with my people? It might be that instead of just taking in information like my doing inhibited daughters do, they love scrolling, is to actually do something. So you can also use the Enneagram stances in this way to say, if I'm feelings inhibited or I'm action driven, if I'm doing inhibited and action inhibited, then what can I do? If I'm somebody who's still culturally compliant, maybe my job will be to parse out what social media I'm reading. And instead of just believing everything I read, my job this week will be to parse out my own thoughts. You will have to deal with your social media situation uniquely. You heard a bit about ours, but pause with me now to think about yours. Give yourself just a moment to think about what you could do to help that part of your life to go better. Social media. Okay. Well, you've heard the 3 tips and they do work. So, as long as you put them into practice, they'll work. Getting your organization going so that your day has a lot in it, including balance, that will help to get some of this anxiety out. You also heard me talk about how you can become a volunteer in areas that are meaningful to you and your values, and also limiting your social media exposure or shifting it so that it's more productive and healthy. Those, in addition to your own stimming or self soothing behaviors, will help you so much. You're keeping that baseline of remembering to have quality time for your mate, your family. You're keeping that baseline, I hope, of fitness and also trying to make sure you're depositing good proteins into your diet and also allowing those deep breaths and sleep recharge rhythms in as well. And you will be stronger. You may not be perfect, none of us are, but you will be a lot stronger. So think of one thing from today's episode that you are going to do in order to be stronger, healthier, and more peaceful right now. And now I want you to set your intention to do that. Picture yourself doing it, set a reminder in your phone for doing that. If you want more Enneagram based tips, we also have peace tips from last night on Instagram for every single one of the types. And I hope that you will join us here on Monday for so much more meaningful fun and joy. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.